All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the explanation for Chapter 4, which is on simple interest as part of the financial maths unit. So what we're looking at today is the simple interest formula, rearranging it, and doing a bunch of things with it regarding how to turn things into the interest that you've earned or working backwards, and just being able to figure out how it's applied. Can someone in the chat please give me an example of a time when interest might be earned? Yep, I've got one example. Anyone got any other ones? Any other non-obvious ones maybe? Maybe not that one, Ali. Property value maybe? Yeah, okay. All right, so simple interest is the concept of the value of something going up. Banks need money to do their thing. All right, banks need money put in them so that they can then use that money to loan out to other people to then buy more money, buy more, earn more, buy more, earn more. And that's how the whole banking system works. So they reward you for keeping your money with them by giving you an interest rate on the money that you have deposited in there. There are two types of interest, simple and compound. All right, so this lesson we're going to look at simple, next lesson we're going to look at compound. And you'll be able to see the difference between the two, and you might start to realize that we might be given money in simple interest, but we're certainly charged in compound. All right, so what I'm going to have on the whiteboard here is I'm going to have on here the formula. There are two formulas that you need for simple interest. All right, and those are I equals P RT divided by 100. And the other one that you need is A equals P plus I. So these are formulas that have a bunch of different pronumerals in them. So let's go through the important ones. So P is the principal. And no, I don't mean Miss Ogden. All right, principal with PLE on the end. All right. Can anyone tell me what the word principal means in the context of financial maths? If you can't, that's fine. So the principal is another fancy way of saying the starting amount. Yeah. All right, so the P for principal means the starting amount. So this is how much money you had at the start. All right, the total amount that you're talking about there, mate, is this A down here. So this is the total after the total amount after interest. Now, what you'll notice is that P shows up in both this formula here and this formula down here. So what we have here, P is the principal, that's the dollar amount. R is your interest rate. Now, the way I have the formula set up, my value of R must be as a percentage. All right. Some people don't put the fraction, don't put PRT over 100, but they instead write the rate as a decimal. But since most of our questions are dealing with interest rates anyway, having it as a percentage and putting it over 100 just takes a lot of work off it. And time is how long, T is time. and that's in years. All right, so the important thing to remember are the units that are being involved. Time is always measured as years. All right, so time is always years. Thank you for those of you who let me know that you are here. I've now fixed that up. All right. So the principal is the starting amount. The R is your interest rate. T is the time in years. And the A is the total amount after interest. I've just realized how rubbish my handwriting is on the screen. For that, I apologize. Still getting used to doing all this again. All right. So if we... Oh, no, I want to go that way. So I equals P R T over 100. If I deposit $10,000 in a bank for 5 years at 6%, how much interest will I have earned after those 5 years? So I have $10,000, I give it to a bank and I just leave it there for 5 years. All right, this is also sometimes called a term deposit. And the idea is you give them that money and it stays there. You can't touch it for 5 years. But what that usually means is you get given a higher amount of interest for leaving it there for longer. And if you were to take it out early, you'd have to pay like a penalty. All right. So to do that, we break out our formula. We need to figure out how much interest we've got. So that's going to be 10,000 times 6 times 5 divided by 100. So first things first, so that's what I is equal to. All right. I equals PRT times 5. All right, so yep. 6% for 5 years means that you are, so take that off and that off because you take that off and that off. And you're left with 10 times 6 times 5, which, 100 times 6 times 5, which is 3,000. So the amount of interest you have earned is $3,000. What's the total amount of your money once you get it back? After 5 years, how much money have you got in that account? You've got $13,000. So A equals P plus I. And that's 10,000 plus 3,000, which is 13,000. Now, that's a very, 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 very generous interest rate. That's not what you're going to get at a bank. It's going to be generally around about the like 1 and a bit. But for the sake of doing these maths, I just thought, nice and easy, let's do it this way. All right. So the thing is that sometimes what we need to do is we might be given 3 pieces of information and we have to find the 4th, which means that what we are given, we might be given, for example, after withdrawing his money. So after withdrawing his money, Tommy had $12,000. So Tommy withdrew $12,000. He had left it in the bank He had left it in the bank for 6 years. Earning interest. And so he withdrew $12,000. He left it in the bank for 6 years, earning interest. He started with $9,500. What was the So he started with 12,000. So he, at the end of it, so he started with 9,500. He ended with 12,000. It was in the bank for 6 years. Hi, Sahar. So after he took the money out, he now had $12,000. What was the interest rate that he was earning on his money each year? All right, so what we need to do is we need to do a couple of quick little calculations. First things first, this 12,000, what does that 12,000 represent? What letter would we use from our formulas before that for the in place of that 12,000? So I have I equals PRT over 100, and I have A equals P plus I. What letter is that 12,000 representing? It's not I, because he withdrew $12,000. So this is what he had at the end. All right? So at the end, he had 12,000. At the end, he had 12,000, which makes this A. He started with 9,500. If he started with 9,500, what does that make him? What does that make it? It makes that the principal. All right? Now, I know A, I know P. Can I work out what I is? If A equals P plus I, and I know A and P, then I should be able to figure out what I is. And I, make I the subject by subtracting P from both sides. So I equals A minus P. And then in that case, I is 2,500. 12,000 minus 9,500 is 2,500. So that means I is equals to that. Now we know A, we know P, we know I. What are we looking for? What's the last variable that we need to find? Look at the question. What was the interest rate? What does that mean we need to find? What letter are we looking for? We've got A, we've got P, we've got I. That means we need R. All right. By the way, that's T. So we need R. So let's fill in our formula with what we know. 2,500 is equal to the principal of 9,500 times R, which we don't know, times T, which is 6, divided by 100. So First things first, I have a 0 here and a 0 here to cancel out with those zeros here, which means that I'm looking for 2,500 equals 95 times 6 times R. Which means that if I divide both sides by 95 times 6, what's 95 times 6, guys? $570, correct. So that means it's 2,500 equals 570 R. R is going to be equal to 2,500 divided by 570. And 2,500 divided by 70 is what as a decimal, please? 4.39. So that means that he was getting 4.39% per year. So what was the interest rate? There it is there. So this process you're going to need to go through. You'll be given 3 pieces of information and you need to find the 4th. So you need to make sure that you have your 2 formulas at hand ready to go. I equals PRT over 100 and A equals P plus I. Now, coincidentally, if I were to write out the formula a little differently, I could have this formula here. A equals P plus PRT over 100. In that I substitute I for P, which means that if I wanted to, I could then factorize out P. A equals P bracket 1 plus RT over 100. Your textbook may give the formula to you like that. It means the same thing. It's just all in one calculation as opposed to trying to do lots of different things all at once. I like thinking of it as separate things, but some people may like to think of it as a merged thing. All right, whatever works for you. Either way, you still will be able to get the correct answers. It just means that sometimes the calculations are a little bit trickier. For example, if you know P, R, and T, and you just need to find out A, then maybe using my factorized one might be a little bit easier. Who knows? All right. So what we're looking at now is chapter 4B, which is simple interest. You need to do all the questions. Thank you very much.